Welcome to New Money. I'm Tracy Chang. China is a strong competitor for medals on the sports scene, but less so at a domestic level. Now, as the country looks to promote fitness and encourage wider public participation, companies are gearing up to tap the potentially vast sports market.
Basketball has been one of the most popular sports in China. The passion for this game reached a fever pitch in 2002, when Chinese star basketballer Yao Ming started his NBA career at Houston Rockets across the Pacific. At the same time, 24-year-old Cheng Hang, a Chinese student in Chicago, was brewing the idea of creating an online basketball forum. His HoopCHINA went online on January 1st, 2004. It only had 2 comment threads and received 7 visitors on the first day, but 2 years later, it has attracted a huge community of basketball fans.
When I first started designing the website in the US, I was just dabbling. I was trying to figure out how I could share the feeling I got when watching games with people online. I wanted to create a way for all of us to have a lot of fun together. That's how it started.
During that time, the rapid development of the internet meant that existing online portals and sports papers could no longer satisfy the people's demand for sports news. But Cheng Hang had first-hand access to NBA news while living in Chicago. He and a few other users translated their favorite bits of NBA news. That put HoopCHINA's reports on par with most Chinese media at the time. Chinese media could only provide a small amount of first-hand information about basketball. Hoopu's users wrote in detail about players, team strategies, rules, and the history of the NBA. Some of these users used their writing skills and knowledge to write articles that were widely followed on the website. Despite not having any background in sports media, these posts strengthened the quality of the forum and attracted more new users. At the same time, the site also became a widely cited source of insider sports news. The attention and popularity of the site turned the online forum into a business and turned some users into employees.
I began using Hoopu in June 2005. At that time, I was only a middle school student. Every day after I got home from school, I would read posts about the NBA, about strategies and other topics. I found a thread called The Basketball Court that contained lots of interesting posts containing trivia about all the different matches, tactics, and so on, which were very well written. So I started to log on to Hoopu every day. I got hooked on basketball when I was a pupil of grade 3, and I've loved it ever since. Hoopu was very popular among university students back then. Many of our teammates and other fellow students used it to read the most popular articles and posts.
I wanted to study abroad after I graduated from high school, but I wasn't in any rush to get there. So I had a lot of time on my hands. That's when Hoopu came to me. I thought it was meant to be, so I agreed to join them. I completely fell in love with the job and didn't want to leave. I could keep working here forever. I think I learned more working at Hoopu than I ever learned in university. And I love doing everything I do here.
Cheng Hang started the football website Goal High and the car racing website Hello F1 in 2007. In April 2012, he merged HoopCHINA, Goal High, and Hello F1 into one website, Hoopu.com. In June 2011, Hoopu's weekly visitor numbers exceeded those of Sina Sports for the first time, proving that it had become a serious competitor to the biggest portal sites in China. The company has now established partnerships with soccer giants, German club FC Bayern Munich, and UK club Liverpool FC, as well as the NFL and the Pac-12. The company also provides marketing services like brand information, marketing, player agents, and digital services for foreign companies that wish to enter the Chinese market. By 2015, Hoopu.com has become the most visited sports website in China, with more than 35 million active users and 200 million visits per day. Its mobile app is also a leader among its peers. Hupu's main sources of income include advertisements, tournaments, sports lottery, games, and e-commerce. Advertisements make up 50% of their income, and their offline events enable them to ask for higher prices. The company completed its third round of investment of 240 million RMB, or roughly 40 million USD, in January 2015, and is currently planning its IPO.
To begin today's discussion, we have Professor Jia Ning joins me in the studio. She's the Deputy Director at the China Business Case Center at Tsinghua University. So thank you so much for being here today, Professor Jia.
Thanks,
so can you tell us about China's overall sports market?
Sure. I think the big-time sports in China is still young compared to the U.S. Here we're looking at this is a cross-national comparison of the sports market's contribution to the nation's GDP. Right? So we're looking at multiple countries here. The world average is about 2%. If you look at the U.S., it's about 3%. This is the sports market's contribution to the nation's GDP. Whereas if you look at China on the very left, this is only 0.6%, right? Which means in China, the sports market still has a lot of room for future growth. And actually, since late 2013, President Xi Jinping and other top leaders in China have consistently said that they are hoping the Chinese sports markets will develop, and it was expected to reach about 5 trillion RMB by the year of 2025. And the government last year actually enacted a number of new policies to encourage the development of the sports industry, including to remove any barriers that hinder the growth of the sector, as well as to encourage more private capital to come into this market to build basic infrastructures to facilitate and also to provide sports-related services. So I think this market is definitely positioned for a strong growth momentum in the future.
Professor Jia, let's talk about Hupu, this company in particular.
Sure.
What makes this company so attractive and successful?
Right. Well, this is an interesting company, and I think there are several successful factors. One is the rising popularity of NBA games. So we know the Chinese TV stations started to broadcast these sports games, including NBA games, back in late 1990s. And at the time, several Chinese players, including Wang Zhizhi and Yao Ming, right, they're also playing in the U.S. On these leagues, which attracted a number of Chinese NBA fans.
Right.
And they are the potential target users of websites like Hupu, right? Because they're constantly looking for news updates on different sports events. And the second success factor is the fact that Hupu's information is more informative. Because at the time, the sports news is rather limited, and most of these sports-related articles are being published by domestic Chinese magazines or newspapers. Hupu basically tried to differentiate itself by directly translating all these English articles and news report directly to Chinese, right? Which actually gave the company a leg up in terms of competing in this sector because their information is more informative as well as more timely in that sense, right? And the third success factor is the fact that Hupu gradually started to provide its own original content. So they have their own dedicated writers, that write review articles on various sports events, which in turn attracted a lot of fans. Right, so this is also a third success factor. And the fourth one is the fact that their website is very interactive. So as users, you can actively participate during the discussion of various sports events and reviews.
Professor Jia, we know that Hupu's founder is a foreign returnee as well, someone who's Chinese but went abroad and then came back and started a business. This is not uncommon these days, but can you comment on this type of foreign returnees business ventures in China?
Sure. I think the founder of Hupu, Cheng Hang, he's a Tsinghua graduate, but he holds a PhD in mechanical engineering from Northwestern University, I believe. So he, as you mentioned, Tracy, he is one of the many so-called sea turtles or foreign returnees, right? Who basically had their degree in the U.S. or some foreign countries and then came back to China to realize their dreams or start their own companies. I think the advantage for them, in starting up their own company, is the fact that they have more exposure to new ideas. They have better, global visions. They have access to more resources overseas. But their downside or disadvantages is the fact that they generally lack domestic knowledge and local network or guanxi. And we know that's actually very important in the business success in China.
That's right. Guanxi is the #1 thing, like
That's
we
right,
say.
yeah.
But they're all pretty successful from what we've seen so far, right?
Well, actually, if you look at the first generation of successful internet companies or TMT companies in China, including companies like Sohu and Baidu, the founders, Robin Li and Zhang Chaoyang, they're all so-called sea turtles or foreign returnees. Right? And the reason they were able to identify that opportunity very early on is because they had study experience overseas, and they look at this, witness the success of companies like Google and Yahoo in the U.S. And they were able to capitalize on that idea and did a local adaptation, brought that idea back to China.
I see the early exposure.
That's right.
Folks, after the short break, we'll look at the changing environment in China's sports industry. Stay tuned.